Many barriers occur in communication. And first, I want to talk about something that's not on the slide directly, but when we have communication with families, face-to-face communication allows for the least amount of communication barriers or miscommunication. Think about that. When you are in a conversation with someone face-to-face, you're less likely to misunderstand what they're saying because not only are you hearing the conversation, but you're seeing their expressions and their gestures, and you can really read the tone of the conversation. Even the volume and intensity of their voice give you clues as to how they're feeling. When we get to the kind of communication that families and teachers sometimes rely on, actually as a society in the 21st century, we see so much of our communication through technology. We see emails and we see text messages, sometimes voicemail messages, but they're actually less likely these days than some form of written communication through a device. When we have our voicemails and our texts and our emails, we sometimes have the message get misunderstood in the delivery. We cannot read the tone. We cannot see their facial features. We sometimes may think they're angry about something when they're not. They may be angry and we don't understand that. And so there are a lot of miscommunication problems. So if you're relaying a message to a family, you need to think about what is the best method of delivery to have the least miscommunication. Now, after we get over that hurdle, we have a new hurdle, and that is the barriers that come along with communication. When we talk in the childcare setting, parents automatically, when they're sending their child to a daycare, may have some kind of barrier already going on internally. They may feel competition, guilt, they may have differing goals than the school, and sometimes a power struggle may be ready to happen at any time. And this is because they're coming with maybe some background baggage that may make them feel one way or another. These would bring a barrier to the table when you are having communication with this family. And so it's really important to understand how they feel in each of these areas. Do they feel competition between the caregiver and themselves over who the child may become more attached to? Are they guilty about leaving their child? Do they have different goals? And do they feel out of control? Do they feel like they don't have a say in their child's education, which is probably a daily struggle for them because they are not with that child on a daily basis. They're at work or at school. So we need to know these barriers, and when we can identify them and work through those, then we can communicate well with the family because that's in the background. Within a school setting, when children are a little bit older, we still have some barriers. A big barrier during the school years for any of you that are parents is confusion, lack of information about rules, policy, goals, procedures, even expectations, homework, when things are due. Those, if we aren't communicating well with families, there can be a lot of confusion, and that leads to anger on the parent's part toward the school or the teacher. Also, the school setting does not allow for flexibility. The parent schedules and the school schedules often collide, and even for parents who want to willingly be involved, oftentimes they cannot, and the school does not accommodate their schedules well. The last barrier within the school setting is lack of individualism. Sometimes parents feel that teachers don't know their whole child. What I mean by whole child is they know the little learner and their academic needs, but they don't often know what do they do on the weekends? What are their hobbies? What is their family life like? And we talk about the importance of getting to know each child as a whole child in this course so we can be better teachers to them academically. If families feel that you haven't reached out and taken that time, then they're going to be less likely to want to collaborate with you, and there will definitely be communication barriers. I can think specifically in this area, my daughter's first grade teacher. My daughter is a gymnast, and she's been a gymnast since she was very, very young. When she was in first grade, she was training maybe 15 hours a week, and that's a lot for a 6-year-old, and gymnastics was her life. Her teacher never once said, "Hey, have you learned anything new at gymnastics? Did you have a meet this weekend? How did you do?" Even even as far as what did you do over the weekend with your family? The teacher only taught. It was all about what she was teaching in that classroom. She didn't know her learners outside of that classroom. And when you don't know a child outside of that day-to-day academic world, you're really missing a big piece. You don't know their family, you don't know their interests, you don't know their culture, their diversity. And so there's a huge wall between this teacher and our family, and it kept growing as the year went on. And we had communication problems, we had academic problems, and eventually had to be intervened with the principal to make a better situation for my daughter. These are important to address as the teacher so we don't have that wall going up throughout the school year. We want that wall to be tearing down through the school year. So we have to know what are the barriers, how do we overcome them, and then how can we communicate effectively with families.